If you were a kid a few decades ago, there was one simple way to earn money, gain respect, and feel like you mattered in your neighborhood. You woke up before sunrise, stepped out into the cold, grabbed a stack of newspapers, and started your route. No one reminded you. No one checked on you. If you didn't show up, people noticed immediately. Today, that entire world is almost gone, and most people didn't even realize when it disappeared. So what happened to newspaper boys? And why did a job that once defined childhood responsibility simply vanish? For most of the 20th century, being a newspaper boy wasn't just a side hustle. It was a rite of passage. Thousands of kids across cities and small towns had their own routes. They knew every house, every dog that might chase them, every customer who tipped well, and everyone who didn't. It was predictable, structured, and surprisingly serious work for someone so young. Every morning or afternoon, depending on the edition, bundles of newspapers would arrive at a central drop-off point. Kids would rush over, sort their stacks, and prepare for delivery. Some used bikes, others walked. In winter, they pushed through snow. In rain, they kept going anyway. There were no excuses. If a paper didn't land on someone's doorstep, complaints came fast. This wasn't just about delivering news. It taught discipline. You had to manage time, handle money, keep track of subscriptions, and even collect payments from customers. Many newspaper boys went door to door at the end of the week, knocking and asking for payment. That meant learning how to talk to adults, deal with rejection, and stay consistent. And the money mattered. For many kids, this was their first real income. It wasn't huge, but it was enough to buy things on their own. It gave a sense of independence that's rare for kids today. More importantly, it created a direct link between effort and reward. You worked, you delivered, you got paid. Simple. But the system behind it was even more interesting. Newspapers relied heavily on this network. Instead of hiring full-time delivery workers, they built an entire distribution model around young carriers. It was efficient, cheap, and scalable. Every neighborhood had its own mini-distributor, and the kids were at the center of it. At first, this system seemed unbreakable. For decades, it worked almost the same way. But then things started to change slowly, almost invisibly. The first shift came with television. People no longer had to wait until morning to learn what was happening in the world. They could turn on the TV and see it instantly. This didn't destroy newspapers right away, but it weakened their position. Still, newspaper boys continued their roots. The real collapse came later, and it hit much harder. The internet changed everything. News became instant. Not just daily updates, but second-by-second information. People didn't need a paper to know what happened yesterday. They already knew what was happening right now on their phones. This broke the main value of newspapers. As more people stopped subscribing, circulation dropped sharply. Fewer subscribers meant fewer papers. Fewer papers meant fewer delivery routes. And fewer routes meant fewer newspaper boys. The system began shrinking year after year. At the same time, companies started changing how delivery worked. Instead of relying on kids, they hired adults or used centralized delivery services. Adults could cover larger areas faster and more reliably. What used to be dozens of small routes handled by kids became a few large routes handled by drivers. Another important factor was safety and regulation. Over time, society became more protective of children. Labor laws became stricter. Parents became more cautious. The idea of kids working alone early in the morning or late in the evening started to raise concerns. What was once seen as responsibility began to look risky. But the biggest shift wasn't just economic or legal, it was psychological. People stopped valuing physical newspapers. When something arrives instantly on your screen for free, it becomes hard to justify paying for a printed version. The habit of reading a physical paper slowly disappeared, and when demand drops, the entire system collapses. It's not just the delivery job that disappears. It's the printers, the distribution centers, the local offices, and the entire structure built around it. By the early 2000s, the decline was obvious. Many routes were gone. Kids stopped signing up. The early mornings, the bikes, the sound of newspapers hitting doorsteps, all became rare. Today, in most places, the traditional newspaper boy no longer exists. Newspaper delivery still happens, but it looks completely different now. It's usually adults driving cars, covering large areas quickly. There's no personal connection, no familiar face, no small conversations, no weekly knock on the door asking for payment. Something deeper disappeared along with the job. It wasn't just about delivering papers. It was about responsibility. It was about trust. It was about giving kids real work with real consequences. Newspaper boys learned discipline in a way that's hard to replicate today. They had schedules to follow, customers to satisfy, and money to manage. They were accountable. And that kind of early responsibility shaped how they saw work in life. Today, kids grow up in a different world. There are fewer opportunities like this. Everything is more digital, more controlled, and more distant. The idea of a young kid managing a delivery route alone feels almost impossible now. But not long ago, it was completely normal. The disappearance of newspaper boys wasn't caused by one single event. It was the result of many changes happening at the same time. Technology improved, habits changed, business models evolved, society shifted its priorities, and step by step, an entire part of everyday life faded away. Most people didn't notice when it happened. There was no clear moment when it ended. It just slowly disappeared into the background. But when you look back, it becomes obvious. This wasn't just about newspapers. It was about how the world moved from physical to digital, from local systems to global networks, from personal responsibility to automated convenience. The newspaper boy didn't fail. He didn't become unnecessary because he did something wrong. He disappeared because the world around him changed. And once that change happened, there was no way back. What replaced it is faster, easier, and more efficient. But it's also less personal, less human, and less connected to everyday life. And maybe that's the real story.